Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. I'm going to go ahead and stop our music for a moment and wish everybody a happy Wednesday. At least I think it's Wednesday. It's just been a blur the last week or so in the workshop. I have to keep looking at my phone to know what day of the week it is. I'm sure all of you have had weeks like that are just so hectic and so busy. You're like, which end is up? Which end is up? But looking forward to sharing this unboxing with you today. It's always kind of exciting to see what kind of machines are coming to the workshop, who's sending them, and where they're originating from. This particular one is originating from the great state of Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania, many of you know, is also where our dear friend Sonny and Craig are from as well. Sonny is our friend that just passed away very recently and was part of the leadership team with us. So I'll give you the name of the city, see if anyone wants to Google it for us and tell me any details on it if you don't mind. And it is called, let's see here, Lewisburg. If you've ever heard of Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, or you know anything about Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, or you can Google something about Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, that would be great. The spelling on it is just like it sounds, Lewisburg. Lewisburg, Pennsylvania is where this machine is coming out of. And again, our sender, our friend is Pam that's sending it to us. Now I'm going to give you a couple of clues on what kind of machine might be in this box and see if you can zero in on it, at least narrow it down maybe to the origin of the maker of the machine, etc. And then we'll kind of go from there as we begin to go through layers of unpacking and reveal what kind of machine I'm going to be working on. You know, not right away, a lot of machines ahead, but I'll be getting to this machine eventually and hoping to restore it to greatness so that Pam can enjoy it out in Pennsylvania. Okay, let me see if I can give you some clues. Looking for some dates here that I can give you. Okay, I'm going to give you some semi-tricky clues, maybe not. The founder of this company has London, England roots, but also another country as well. This particular founder started out very modestly with only a small little group of workers. And then eventually, 1890, that workforce had grown to over 400 individuals that were helping with the production of these sewing machines. This company also has artisan and light industrial roots. Artisan and light industrial roots. Yeah, let's see if I can. I'm trying to make it a little bit tougher. I sometimes give the store away and I make it way too easy. Okay, here's a big clue. And I think it's a very helpful clue. This particular sewing machine company had a major milestone of making the 1 millionth sewing machine sometime in the early 1900s. See if there's anything else. This company would have, for practical purposes, wrapped its production of sewing machines as an original maker right around 2012. So I'm not good with math. What is that? About 11 years ago? Yeah, about 11 years ago, they stopped producing machines. So there are some really good clues. And I know that I saw that Susie from Minnesota and Emma are present. If they took note of those clues that I just rattled off randomly, and they want to capture any of them in the live chat so that anyone that pops in afterwards has the benefit of kind of scrolling up and seeing what some of the clues were, that would be super helpful. Whatever you are able to capture, type it in the live chat, and that way others that join us for this unboxing can see those clues. And if we haven't zeroed in on it yet, that might help them to do so. Yeah, I think those are good clues, but I'm making it a little bit tougher today. Just a little bit tougher. I'll give you one more. I'll give you one more clue. One more clue on the potential machine origin inside of this box from Pennsylvania. This was not the original maker of sewing machines from this particular country of origin. Again, I shared with you that the maker of this sewing machine has roots in, what did I say? London, England, I believe it was. England for sure. But in their country of origin, there was another maker that preceded them. So they weren't the original maker of sewing machines in this country of origin. There was another maker before them. All right, I'll give you a huge clue. Huge clue. And the last, no, I'll make it more difficult. The first name of that original maker of sewing machines in this country of origin, their first name was Clemens. Clemens, almost like Clementines, but Clemens. Yeah. Those are great clues. Very, very tricky clues, but good clues nonetheless. All right. I think that's enough. So I don't know if anyone looked up Lewisburg, Pennsylvania or not, but Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, again, is the area that this machine was shipped from by Pam. And let's get into this. I've got a customer arriving around noon today, so I want to really try to stay on track and just make sure that we get this done, not in a rushed manner. We got plenty of time, but that we just stay efficient with time so that I don't run long and over like I usually do. Okay. So let me say some quick good mornings and then we'll launch into this. Let me say some quick good mornings. Well, of course, the first person in the live chat today, even before I clicked the go live button within the YouTube portal, was Susie from Minnesota. So good morning to Susie from Minnesota. She is a go-getting gal. And then right after her was Emma from Florida. Great to have Emma from Florida this morning. And Sheila Kilgore. Great to have Sheila here. Also, our dear friend Christine from Canada. Christine from Canada, welcome, dear. Good to have you here. And a good morning to Kathy King as well. Great to have Kathy here. I think that's it. We've got a small. Oh, I kneel corrected. I'm kneeling down in front of the laptop right now. So I instead of saying I stand corrected, I kneel corrected. Good morning to Alex Al Koss from the great state of California. Also, good morning to Susie Tiggett. Susie just popped in as well. Good to have Susie here as well. And I don't know where Susie is from. Maybe Susie Tiggett is from down south somewhere. I don't remember if she shared, but some of you might know where she's from. Okay. So I rattled off a lot of clues, and hopefully you were present when I gave some of those clues about the origin of this machine. What kind of machine are we unboxing today? That's the big mystery, isn't it? We know that it's from Pennsylvania. We know that Pam sent it, but we have no idea what it is. And we certainly don't have any idea what the condition of the machine is either. I'm going to go ahead and ring the bell. I don't do this all the time, but I'll ring the bell to signify that class has started. So if you show up after the bell is rung, go to one of the moderators, go to one of the leadership team members and say, hey, can I have a hall pass? Can I have a hall pass so I don't get sent to the principal's office? Yeah, that would be good. All right. All right, let's move forward on this. See what we find. All right. So anyone that arrived a little bit later, you probably missed out on some of the clues that I gave. So I'm sorry about that, but that's why you have to show up to class on time, right? But I'll revisit a couple of those clues real quick, and then we'll get into unboxing right away. Right after I check to see who just sent a text message. Oh, Christine from Canada just sent me a text, and it says 6 attachments. So I'm assuming it's probably showing the unboxing on her end of the goodie box that I shipped her that took the weirdest route coming towards her in Ontario, Canada, that one could ever imagine. I don't know if Christine, because our audience is different today, if Christine wants to share any of the details of how that package I shipped from Oconto, Wisconsin was routed to her and eventually arrived in Ontario, but it was a very bizarre tracking process. Oh, what a beautiful picture. I got to show this, Christine. I got to show it. A beautiful picture of Christine from Canada wearing one of Susie's hats from Minnesota. Susie's hats, if you don't know this, Susie's hats have gone all over the place. All over the place. They've gone to London, England, which the founder of the maker of this machine that we're unboxing today has London, England roots. I shared that as one of the clues. So Susie's hats have gone to London, England. They've gone to Holland. They've gone to California. They've gone all over the place. And now there's one in Canada being worn by this beautiful cow country gal, Christine. And there she is. Check her out. I love it. I love it. What a beautiful picture. And also, I didn't comment about it, but did you notice that incredible quilt behind her? Did y'all catch that quilt behind Christine in the picture? Maybe she can share a little bit of details on that quilt that's hanging on the wall just behind her. But what a lovely picture. And I really appreciate her sharing that so that Susie from Minnesota knows what an impact her generosity and thoughtfulness is having on the cow country family. Now we have a hat that's going to be bouncing around in the Ontario, Canada area. We've got one in London, England. We've got one in Holland. I don't even know where they've all gone at this point. Maybe I always tell Susie, and maybe Susie is tracking them. Oh, we just sent one out to Colorado as well. We just sent one out to Denver, Colorado. But it looks like a lovely quilt. I don't know if Christine made it or she got it as a gift or whatever, but I'm sure she'll type in the live chat and share the details of that beautiful, beautiful quilt hanging just behind her. What else do we have? Oh, and then there's a picture of the box that I shipped, and you can see the tape on it where customs. There had to be a sewing enthusiast. There had to be a sewing enthusiast at the customs point somewhere in Canada, and they saw the declaration thing that I put on the box where I said sewing attachments, sewing supplies, sewing blah blah blah, whatever I put, I have no idea. But they had to open that box. I've shipped boxes to Alex Askeroff in London, England, a couple of times, and I've shipped them to all places around the globe. They're never opened. But the Canadians must love sewing. They love sewing. And they were curious, what did this guy from Oconto send our Canadian gal in Ontario? You know, maybe we're going to have to confiscate it. Maybe it's dangerous. So I asked Christine just to look at the declarations thing and see whether or not anything went missing and maybe was confiscated and blown up by Canadian customs. But that yellow tape is an indication that, yeah, they were curious, very, very curious about what was in there. One of the items in there was a vintage button holder, I think it was. And it looks like Christine put that on her class 15 machine. I don't know if that's a 1591 or what class 15 it is, but you can see the picture there of the button holder attachment. And it's a much older one. I believe it was all metal or something like that. And like I said, I'm not an attachment guy. So as I grow closer and closer to retirement, I'm probably going to be giving a lot more of those attachments away through, different impromptu things and giving them to leadership team members, etc. And Susie from Minnesota has cautioned me, and I appreciate it very much. She said, Scott, some of the attachments you have could be worth big bucks. And so, be careful. And I appreciate that cautionary note. But you know what? You guys know this by now. I love giving things away. I really, 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 really do. And I just announced, there it is. I just announced that in honor of our dear friend Sonny, when we hit this next milestone, which is like less than 20 subscribers away, I think we're almost like 10 subscribers away before we hit 14,000 on YouTube on this channel. And we're just shy of 3 million unique visitors. So send all of your friends, your woodland creatures to the channel so we can go over 3 million officially. But you know what? In our niche space, we're getting a lot of traffic. And again, from about 126 countries. So keep sending people to the channel and we can keep building up the family, having more and more cow country friends around the globe. Yeah. Okay. What else did Christine send? I think that might have been it. Oh, no. I also sent her, what else did I send her? I sent her some of the coveted pink grease. You can see it in the upper left-hand corner of the picture there in that little tin. So she can use that pink grease on any of her machines that have gears. Her 201s, 1591s, all of those different machines that are gear driven. Really, all the singers pretty much have gears somewhere on the machine off of the balance wheel or down near the raceway. So she got some pink grease. I don't even remember all the stuff I put in there. I was just having fun. What else? Oh yeah, a little cash register. You can kind of see that in the shot there. I think you can see it. A little cash register. Why did I put a cash register in this box of goodies for Christine from Canada? Ask her in the live chat right now. Why the heck did Scott send you a cash register? It might have something to do with her vocation and her professional position up in Canada. It might. I don't know. It might, but it's a cute little all metal cash register. The little drawer opens, and yeah, it's just kind of a fun thing. I think it was a pencil sharpener, if I remember correctly, originally, or something like that. What else? What else? La 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 la. She has a picture of some of her featherweights. It looks, oh, featherweight and another machine. I didn't enlarge it, but here's a group shot of all kinds of goodies. And Christine can share more what's on that table, what's on that the table there that she sent the picture of. But I'll post all these on Facebook. I know a lot of our folks that are part of the Cow Country family on YouTube, they don't do Facebook. So I really appreciate her sending these so I could pop them up on the live stream right now for those of you that simply don't do Facebook. But there's all kinds of things on this beautiful table in Christine's home right here that you can kind of see in the shot there. Yeah, she could share more details, maybe what that is. And I think those are all the pictures pretty much that she shared. And there were some little attachment feet as well that I included in there that she thought would be helpful. I hope those weren't confiscated by customs. I can't imagine that they were. Yeah, what else? I think that was it. But again, it's always fun to put, they say it's always fun to put a face with a name, isn't it? It's fun to put a face with a name. So now, as you're part of these live streams, or maybe you're in the shadows right now and you're not jumping into the live chat, that's okay. You know, when you look at the name on the screen, Christine, and I say, hey, that's Christine from Canada. This is our Cow Country gal up north. And now you can put a face with a name, which is super great, super cool. Yeah. All right. Well, let's march forward and get into this box and find out what we have. I will give you a couple of those clues again right now. I hope I don't miss any of the clues, but I might. Let's see, give you some more clues again. More clues. So I mentioned that the original founder of the company that this machine is from, in his country of origin, he wasn't the first to come up with a sewing machine. There was another maker before him in that country of origin, and that individual's first name was Clemens. What else do I have? I'll give you another clue. I don't think I gave you the first time. I'm quite sure I didn't. After establishing the business that this machine um, came from, the country of origin, et cetera, about 10 years after establishing this sewing machine company that made the machine that came from Pam out in Pennsylvania, this company had produced about 1,000 sewing machines, and they only had a workforce of about 30 employees. They only had a workforce of about 30 employees, and yeah, and they'd only produced about 1,000 machines at that point. I'll give you a couple more clues for fun. And make note of this. If one of the leaders would type these additional clues in, I really would appreciate it. I'm also going to tell you that the founder of the company that made this machine, again, they were not the first to make sewing machines in this country of origin. And this founder also has roots, like I said, in London, England. But the sons of this founder, the sons, the children of this founder, their names were Jacob and George. Jacob and George. And also, this founder had a daughter by the name of Lina. Lina, Lina. Also had a daughter. So 3 children, Jacob, George, and Lina, were all part of this founder's family. Giving you a lot of great clues, you guys. Make note of these clues. Make note of these clues. What else do I have? I'll try to go back to some of these facts that I gave you before. The way I'll give you some more new clues, more new clues. The way this company first started to market its sewing machines was not through a catalog. They had a fuller brush approach. They had a Kirby approach. In other words, they would go door to door as salespeople presenting machines like this so that people could consider buying them. Other manufacturers did this as well, like Singer and a number of others that we could name. But this particular company was one of the first to do this, not using a catalog, not using direct mail, not using other means of promoting their sewing machines. They went door to door like a fuller brush salesperson. Again, this company that made this machine has roots in London, England, and also another country as well. By the by the late 1800s, here's another clue. By the late 1800s, this company that started with about 30 employees and had only made 1,000 sewing machines. This company in the late 1800s was up to 400 workers, and by, let me make sure I have the right date. Oh, let me rewind. They also have artisan and light industrial roots as well, this company. By the by the early 1900s, here's another clue. The leadership team is going to hate me because I'm giving a lot of new clues as well. A lot of new clues, but this is information we should have. Don't you agree? So by the early 1900s, starting from very modest roots, a company that had only 30 employees and 10 years after coming into existence had only produced about 1,000 sewing machines. By 1902, I just gave you the specific date, and that's okay. By the early 1900s, 1902, this company was exporting their sewing machines to over 64 countries. And by the mid 1900s, early to mid 1900s, they were known worldwide for their industrial sewing machines. They were known worldwide for their industrial sewing machines. Again, a key date. I'm going to really give away the store here. I'm going to give the store away. No, I won't. I'll still be a little bit cryptic, other than giving that other date away mistakenly. By around the mid 1900s, they hit a major milestone of producing their 1 millionth sewing machine by the mid 1900s. 1 million sewing machines. And they had a workforce at that point of over 1,000 employees. Again, they started with 30, they grew to about 400 employees. And then by this date in the mid 1900s, and when they hit that milestone of producing 1 million sewing machines, they had a workforce of about 1,000 workers. 1,000 workers. Okay, I'm not going to give any more, and hopefully, I don't. I think there's a way to scroll back or spin back or something like that. You can hear some of those other clues I gave as well. But I've given you a ton of clues about this company, and I'm hoping that the leaders can capture them and type them into the live chat. That way, it'll be a record and a reminder to other people. Once they see what this machine is, they'll say, "I had no idea that that company hit 1 million machines in the 1900s." So a lot of great facts. And again, we as vintage sewing machine enthusiasts are also historians. Don't you agree? we're also historians. And just like when we did that fundraiser for the History Museum in South Bend, Indiana, this one right here, just like when we did that fundraiser for the History Museum in South Bend, Indiana, these are expert historians. These are people that are really, really into the past, and they know a lot of details about the past that some of us would not have a clue about. But we were still able to, when we took a tour of the Kopsha home, that beautiful mansion that I shared with you, and I presented that closing ceremony where they thanked the Cow Country family for raising almost $11,000 in 10 days for them in the thick of the pandemic. Um, I felt like a student there in many respects because there were so many brilliant historians in those 8 galleries down there in South Bend, Indiana at the History Museum. But I also had a chance to be a teacher when I walked through that beautiful mansion with the curator, and we walked past the sewing room upstairs just off of the servants' quarters. I'm going to get into the shot here. So we're walking through this beautiful mansion, and any of you that have been a part of this channel for a while, you had a chance, I think, to see that video walkthrough that I did. It was literally a private tour that we received by the curator down in South Bend, Indiana, in appreciation for all the support and all the kindness that the Cow Country family was showing to them as they were struggling big time financially in the middle of that pandemic. And as we got up to the servants' quarters, an area in the mansion that generally the public is never allowed to go into, they're never allowed to go in there. And we got access to that. And then we went past the servants' quarters in this mansion, and we went over by another room. And I kind of I wanted to keep up with her. I didn't want to trail behind too far. And so as I'm walking by, I quickly look into the sewing room right off of the servants' quarters, and there was a machine in there. And at first I was, the lighting wasn't so great. I misnamed it as another machine. Does anyone remember what machine that millionaire family had in their mansion down in South Bend, Indiana? Does anyone remember what machine that was? And then I had a chance to educate the curator and the rest of the museum staff on the significance of that model and make in history. What did it do that was so significant in history? And they were blown away. They said, we had no idea, and now we are more knowledgeable. You taught us something, Scott. And that's the role that we share in our classroom all the time, isn't it? We're sometimes teachers, we're always students, and all of you can teach us different things as you get comfortable and you step out of the shadows into the live chat. You make new friends, and then you reach into your toolbox of knowledge and you share it with us so we can carry it forward, and we can share it on this channel with the millions of people that have come to this channel, and the hundreds of countries that are following us right now, many of whom pop up in these live streams. So I'm going to look at the live chat. I wonder if anyone remembers what machine that was. And if you do, share the significance of why the museum staff in South Bend, Indiana was blown away by the significance of that machine. Okay? Yeah. And it was not a 101, but you're really close. You're really, really close. And Emma is in the right neck of the woods, but be more specific, Emma. Be more specific as to the subclass or the subversion of what that 201 class might have been in that mansion where millionaires lived. They could have bought any machine that they wanted. They had millions and millions of dollars from being very, very innovative in the farming space and coming up with a chilled plow. Does anyone know what a chilled plow is? I certainly didn't until I got that tour with the curator, and I shared that tour with all of you of Kopsha Home, that huge mansion owned by the History Museum down in South Bend, Indiana. But a chilled plow is, let me see if anyone guesses. Oh, hello to Ria as well. Hello to Ria. Yeah, the 201-2. The 201-2 was the machine used by Rolls-Royce. It was used by Rolls-Royce. Where's my Rolls-Royce? See if I can get to it. There it is. Rolls-Royce used the Singer 201-2 to sew the interior leather panels of their luxury automobiles from 1948 to 1952. I'll say that again. Rolls-Royce used the Singer 201-2 to sew the interior leather panels of their luxury automobiles from 1948 to 1952. The museum staff down in South Bend, Indiana had no idea. They just saw it as a sewing machine. They didn't know the history of that sewing machine, and they are historians. They are experts in the historical space. But it goes back to say again, never ever feel like you don't have to contribute. If you're in these live streams, you probably have lots of things that you could share with the Cow Country family that would make better, that would make us more knowledgeable, that would make us more better equipped to step out and to share that information that you shared with us, with others around the world, others in our circles of influence. So it goes back to saying, initially, I was very intimidated. I mean, wouldn't you be intimidated if you're going down to a huge museum that has 8 galleries and you're coming down there as a little guy from Oconto, Wisconsin, down to Indiana, and you're meeting all the big shots. You're meeting the executive director, the executive director. You're meeting curators. You're meeting historical artifact experts. And then all of a sudden you take a deep breath and you go, you know what? I'm from the Cow Country family, and we have the smartest people in the world, period. And I'm confident that I'll be able to teach these folks something while I'm down here representing the Cow Country family. And sure enough, they had no idea the significance of that sewing machine displayed near the servants' quarters in that beautiful mansion. I showed it to you all on video. You remember that? I showed you that tour that I took with the curator of that beautiful place. And then I shared in more detail about our conversation, and she was blown away. I mean, you're talking about a curator here, folks, and you have a chance, any of us have a chance to educate another person. Doesn't matter what their title is, doesn't matter what their role is, doesn't matter how big of a company they work for, or how much money they have, or how much influence they have. Knowledge is something that we all can share, and it makes that receiver that much better as we take on the role temporarily of being a teacher. And then obviously we revert back to being a student again pretty quick as different things come up, and that's okay. That's okay. All right, let me look at the chat again real quick, and then we'll get into this unboxing. I'm gonna try to look at the live chat just real quick, see if there's anyone else that I need to say hello to. And it's not Bernina. If all of you were guessing Bernina, remember I just got done presenting that Bernina 125. I just got done presenting that Bernina 125 that I prepared for Teresa, a local gal. And I explained that the Bernina Sewing Machine Company started really late. They came really late to the game and didn't actually land in the sewing machine space officially until the 1930s. So they were really, really, really late to the game. Actually, wait a second now. I'm rethinking this. I've got to look at my notes because I've got so many facts in my head. But Bernina came on the scene much, much later than the 1800s. Much, much, much later. I got to grab my notes real quick so I get it correct. Okay, so the Bernina name, I was correct, 1930s. The Bernina name establishing themselves officially as a company under the banner of Bernina wasn't until 1932. And the company that made this machine has roots going all the way back to the 1800s. So you can cross Bernina off the possible list for what's in the box. Good morning to Jenny as well. Good morning to Jenny. I'm just looking real quick here. Just looking. Just looking. Oh, good morning to Stephen Armstrong. How did I miss Stephen? Stephen must have popped in the chat while I was sharing the facts in that. So it's great to have Stephen here as well. And I believe Stephen is from the great state of Kentucky. Stephen is from the great state of Kentucky. And I don't see anyone else. So I don't think I missed anybody else. I don't think so. Okay. So I've given you a lot of great clues, and thank you to the leadership team for trying to repost in the live chat some of those clues that I gave. No one's gotten close to it yet, so I know that I was a little bit better in being cryptic about the clues instead of giving some big clues away, and then people can start Googling the big clues, and right away they zero in on that company that may have made this sewing machine. So, yeah, I'm feeling rather tricky on this Wednesday, aren't I? All right, so let's start to open this up and see what we find. Let's start to open this up and see what we have. And if no one has done it yet, if someone wants to get extra points and no one has Googled Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, if no one has Googled Lewisburg, Pennsylvania yet and wants to share some interesting details about where this machine was shipped from by Pam, that would be super awesome, wild, are you kidding me, cool, because I know nothing at all. I know nothing, zero, zilch about Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, but it's an important city because that's where Pam is near or lives in, where this machine was shipped from. So learning more about it would be kind of cool, right? Knowing a little bit more about the neck of the woods that this owner calls home, right? Okay, let's get into this and see what we find. And I'm just kind of pushing down. I always talk about this. Push down a little bit. See how much clearance we have underneath this cover. Feels like we got probably a good 1.5 inches or so. So I'm going to set my blade accordingly and just carefully open this package up. And again, most of you know this. Cardboard boxes are not how I ship machines, but there are some really good corrugated boxes out there offered by different places like Home Depot. And so if the cardboard box is well built, there's no harm in sending a sewing machine to the workshop in a cardboard box like this. No harm at all. Just know when you get that sewing machine back, it's not going to be shipped to you in a cardboard box. It's going to be shipped in a plastic tote, and it usually an 18-gallon tote, but depending on the size of your machine, maybe it's in a bentwood cover like the one that we sent out to Las Vegas to Mindy. Then I had to go with a much larger container. I think it was a 32-gallon container. It was mammoth size, so big that USPS would not even ship it priority mail, which is how I normally ship sewing machines through the United States Postal Office. They said it doesn't qualify, that the overall dimensions are too big to qualify as priority. The only way they would send it was by ground. I shared that with some of you on Facebook and also privately. And the rate for ground to go out to Las Vegas was like sending something to Europe. It was just crazy. So I ended up shipping that back by FedEx. And this one came by UPS. I get asked all the time when someone's talking with me about sending a machine in, do you have a recommended shipping source? Do you have one that you recommend over everyone else? I used to say USPS, And then USPS got kind of tricky, and they started adding more and more charges onto containers like mine that are a little bit bulkier. By their definition, containers that are bigger than two cubic feet. And they started charging extra $15 here on top of the shipping, extra $5 for this. I felt like I was buying a used car, literally, when I was dealing with the folks at USPS. And obviously, locally, they don't have any control over that. That's being made by many pay grades above them. But I just got irritated by it, because then I have to pass those charges along to my customers, and they're already investing a lot in sending the sewing machine to the workshop. And so I started looking at other options. And that's when I discovered that in some instances, I could save the customer a lot of money by shipping it by FedEx or by UPS locally, domestically. Internationally, you're almost always going to be stuck with USPS to get the best rate possible. But at any rate, a lot of blah, 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 just to share with you a little bit about the packing side of the house as well. All right, let's see what we have in here. And this machine only arrived a short time ago, in my world, a short time ago, as busy as I am, on May 10th. May 10th. All right, I'm going to try not to knock over any of my little friends. And it looks like we have Peanuts to contend with. Not like the Peanuts characters, but Peanuts. So I've got to get a container to throw these inside of. Let's get a quick check the phone so that I'm not missing any text messages if anyone has a comment, question, or otherwise during the live stream. Just taking a quick look here. Okay, I don't see any text messages relating to the live stream. I know that Susie has already done it, or Emma possibly has done it. But if you do have a question, or if you want to call me live on the live stream and actually be on the air in a sense, like old time radio, but in this case you'll be an audio voice in the background. Feel free to do that, and the leaders can share that phone number with you. Again, you can either text it or you can call it. And that way your voice is heard. Your voice is heard, and you have a chance to provide that input or that question or that comment or whatever during the live stream. I actually had one that came in on the last live stream from Candido from New York, and it was right almost as I was getting ready to sign off on the live stream, and all of a sudden I saw it, so I was able to answer it before we ended the live stream. But it gets really busy when you're in front of the camera and you're trying to manage all these things. So don't be afraid to persist if you feel like you're not being heard. Okay, let me grab a container so I can get these peanuts stowed away. Or I could save a step and actually put them into a little bag. Because I obviously don't throw these away. I use these to ship other sewing machines back to other places. So I might get a machine originally from London, England. And again, the roots of the maker of this sewing machine have ties to London, England, along with another country. So I might take peanuts from a container from London, England, and ship them over to California. Or I might get peanuts from Oregon and ship them down to Texas. So we're probably, I don't think there are any international laws about peanuts crossing borders, but if there were, I probably would have people with dark sunglasses knocking on the door of the workshop right now, wanting to talk to me. Absolutely. Because I do it all the time. I love to see things be used and not wasted. All right, so you can chat among yourselves as I'm going through the meticulous process of trying to get some of these peanuts collected up. And a telltale sign of UPS, a telltale sign of UPS being in the mix of things is a double box method like this. You can kind of see that in the shot right now. UPS loves their double box method, and generally it has very good outcomes as far as safeguarding fragile things, including our sewing machines. But it's not the approach that I use per se. So, there is more than one way to get a sewing machine safely to another destination, but I'm a little bit particular about my method and the way I do things. And I think it works real well. Have a lot of success in shipping machines, as all of you know, all around the globe. There are a lot of peanuts in here. I'm going to be able to ship maybe two sewing machines out with all these peanuts that Pam sent from Pennsylvania. So these are peanuts from Pam in Pennsylvania. Try saying that really fast 3 times. Peanuts from Pam in Pennsylvania. Yeah. It's like Peter Piper picked a peck. I have no idea what it is. You know what I'm saying. Yeah. I could do the double hand grab, but I've got to hold the bag too. So I'll get these down a little ways, and then I'll see if I can pull this center box out without dumping these peanuts all over the place, hopefully. Well, I hope your week is starting out well. We're already on Wednesday, and I know all of you, even if you're retired, you still have a busy life. There's things to do. There's things to accomplish. There's things to check off of a list. So I'm always really grateful when you take time out of that real busy day to come together with the family in a live stream like this, especially as you watch me doing the equivalent of cutting grass with clippers and pulling these peanuts out enough so that I can get this box out without dumping them hopefully all over the floor. Getting really close, I think, to where I can pull this out, hopefully. Yeah, thank you to Pam for all these peanuts. This will help me out a lot with shipping a couple of machines back to customers. So a little bit more about our contest that's coming up. Our contest that's coming up, if you want to get a leg up on it, we haven't hit the milestone yet. I think we're about 15 subscribers away from hitting the milestone of 14,000 subscribers. And if you do Facebook, you saw me post that, and you saw that the average number of people that visit this channel in a 28-day period, that's the way YouTube does it. Every 28 days, they give you analytics and details on your channel's performance, your activity. About every 28 days, we have anywhere from 25,000 up to 100,000 people that visit the channel to watch videos. And so, hitting 14,000 is a big deal, but I've said it before, and it might even be in this live stream right now. Some of the people in this live stream right now, when I set up a live stream, I can make it available only to subscribers. In other words, I can click a little button when I set up a live stream, and I can say it's only available to those that are subscribers. And if someone else, tries to access it, they can't watch the live stream unless they subscribe. I've elected not to do that. I've elected not to do that ever, because I don't want to exclude people simply because they haven't taken time to click a button to subscribe. I would love if they did. I would love if they subscribe to the channel. But if they don't choose to do it right away for whatever reason, I still want them to feel like they're part of the family. You know what I mean? I want them to feel like they're welcome, and that they don't have to, have a membership of sorts to benefit from being part of our family. But I hope eventually they click subscribe so that our actual subscribers will represent the real numbers of the people that come to this channel every 28 days. On the low end, it's 25,000. On the high end, it's over 100,000 every 28 days. So you can imagine if just a fraction of those people would click subscribe, how many new milestones we'd be celebrating very rapidly with our overall family size by subscribers going up exponentially. All right, I think I'm low enough on this. Maybe get some of these over here too. I pulled this sleeve up so many times that the elastic is starting to go on it, so it keeps falling back down again. Okay, I think we're almost at that point. Yeah, I think so. There we go. And it looks like Pam, either Pam or UPS, decided to ship this machine laying down on its side. I get it. I know why they do that, so they can go with a smaller box. But the safest way to ship a sewing machine is the same way that the original manufacturers designed their cases, and that is for the machine to be upright. It's going to provide the greatest level of stability and care and safety to that machine when it's standing up instead of when it's laying down. But I hope, at least with it laying down on the side, that they put the controls that might be plastic facing up, so that the weight of the machine wasn't pressing on them all the way from Pennsylvania. That would be, I've had them come that way. Y'all know that. I've had them come where they literally put the box in upside down, and the weight of that machine is pressing down on plastic controls, bouncing all the way several hundred, if not thousands of miles, coming to the workshop. So hopefully they did it right. All right, let me see if I can get in here. Here we go. Oh, yeah. I'll tell you one thing. I'll give you another clue. This is not a lightweight machine. Not even close. It's got some meat on the bones, as my daddy would say. All right, here we go. All right, let me get this box out of the way. I'll just check in the box real quick to make sure that there's nothing in the bottom. And I'll check it again after the live stream as well. But you can see the number of peanuts that I'm going to be able to recycle and ship off somewhere else. These are Pam's Pennsylvania peanuts. And now I'm going to be able to reuse Pennsylvania peanuts, send them somewhere else. I think the next machine I have going out is probably going to be going to, I'd have to check. But at any rate, I'll definitely put them into use. Okay, those look like that's just peanuts in the bottom. But really a good job on Pam's part in looking to UPS and using a double box method, which is so much better than what some of the other shippers do. And we'll see what we have inside now that we got to that point. We're getting really, really close to unveiling what this mystery machine is that I gave you a ton of potential teaser type clues on. Lots and lots and lots and lots of clues on this machine maker. Okay, let's get this box, this inner box, back up here. And most of you know, I always talk about when you're shipping a sewing machine, you want to make sure that you immobilize the machine. That's why you'll see me, like in some of the reels on Facebook, I'll show a little bit of the packing process of a machine, and you'll see me going around it with the stretch wrap, then you'll see me going around it with the bubble wrap, and then I go on top of that bubble wrap with more stretch wrap, so I just cinch it in, basically a form-fitting mold around that machine, cocooning it, so that anything associated with that machine is just constricted. It can't move, it can't pivot, it can't pitch, it can't do anything. It's just frozen in time. And one of the things I'm always curious about when someone ships in a box like this, especially the inner box, if we give it a little jiggle wiggle, if we give it a jiggle wiggle, are we going to hear movement? Are we going to hear anything shifting around inside? Because if we do, We know that when it was traveling from Pennsylvania and getting shipped around and being thrown onto those metal beds of the UPS trucks and the cement outside of those doors where the trucks pull in and pull out and all that sort of thing. We know that this thing was bouncing around inside of this box. So I don't know. I don't know what we're going to find. Let me see what happens if I pick her up and give her a little bit of a jiggle. See if we hear anything shifting. I'm hearing a lot of shifting. I don't know if you can pick that up on the microphone or not. I hope you can. So from side to side, up and down, whatever filler presumably UPS used to put around this machine inside of here, it wasn't enough when you're talking about a machine that's as heavy as this, because we're hearing a lot of movement, and movement translates to potential damage. If a machine can't move, it's highly unlikely that that machine is going to get damaged, apart from a catastrophic drop off of a conveyor belt or something like that, 15, 20 feet down to a cement floor. But for general transport, you want to make sure that that machine has no movement at all, no movement from side to side, no movement up and down. And again, just giving honest feedback, I'm hearing movement in every direction inside of this box. That's not a good thing. And that's not the owner's fault if she paid a service like UPS to do this for her. UPS, they do this professionally. They should know better. They should know better that movement is very, very dangerous when it comes to something that is fragile. But again, you have to educate. If you're going to use a shipper, you've got to educate them that a heavy metal machine is still fragile. It's still fragile, even though it's metal, even though it's solid, even though it's heavy. You have to educate those shippers, because all they see is a chunk of metal. And how can you hurt a chunk of metal? Well, how you can hurt a chunk of metal is real simple. I'll show you a machine from Montana that's going to be going through a restorative process pretty quick. It's been here for a while, but this took a little bit of a fall, not a huge fall, and I'll show you what happened to it. If you look real carefully at the edge of the machine right here, you're going to see that it's missing something. Missing this right here. This again is from Montana, and this particular customer had it only probably, I mean, if you're carrying it down with your arm, like, you know, like most people will, they'll wrap their fingers around underneath the arm here, and they'll carry the machine very carefully. It's probably only about 12 to 16 inches off the ground. It's only about 12 to 16 inches off the ground. But that, because these machines and machines like this one are cast metal, when you're going through the casting process, as that metal cools, there's tiny little, it's hard to see them, but there's tiny little holes that are in that casting from the cooling process. And those gap points in the metal, just like gap points in a package that allow that machine to bounce around, make that metal vulnerable to impact, even impacts 12 inches to 14 inches off the ground. And so this took a little bit of a tumble down to the concrete, and snapped the whole edge of the bed off. Snapped the whole edge of the bed right off. So it just goes to show you can have something that's all metal. It's a well-built machine. Damage because of a very, very short fall, a very shallow fall. Very, very shallow fall. So this is going to be a real precise repair that I have to do to try to bring these back together. I'm going to have to use dental style drills and port some holes very carefully into the casting along here, and then put the equivalent of rebarb like you would use with cement, and then use a very special epoxy to marry these two back together. Then I'll have to use a blending process so that the metal joining points can't be seen. And then this will have to be stripped all the way down to bare metal, repainted, and get brand new decals. So yeah, you got to be careful. Even with all metal machines like this, you got to be incredibly careful because they can take even a small fall, even a real small fall, and they can get serious damage to them. And this one, by the way, also came by way of UPS also. So all right, so let's get into this box now. I'm just going to look at the live chat real quick. Oh, good morning to Robin. I don't know if others have joined since I said my good mornings, but I see near the bottom of the live chat, Robin popped in. Robin is from Minnesota, just like Susie, just like Bill, and a number of our other Cow Country family members. And yeah, I mean, we have people everywhere, don't we? Our family is growing and growing and growing and growing. It's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. All right, let's get into this box. And again, if you're joining us a little bit later, if you scroll up in the live chat, you'll see that the leaders have captured clues about what this machine might be in here as far as where it was made, etc. And if you want to toss a guess out, and if I don't see it, if I don't see the guess, you can text me and say, hey, look at the live chat. I just put a guess in, or one of the leaders can text me or whatever. But feel free to guess as far as what we're going to be finding inside of here. I'm not asking for a specific model. I'm simply looking for origin of manufacturing, where this machine was made. And I gave some real tricky clues to try to get you to zero in on it. Real tricky clues. I don't want to hit my little friends behind here. You can see they're right behind. I think I just took out our representative from Switzerland. Sorry about that. No, it's not a workman's comp. It's not a workman's. You didn't get hurt. You fell a shorter distance than that machine from Montana. You fell like what, 6 inches? You're okay. You're okay. Really, you are. Okay. All right. Let me move. All right, I'm gonna move you back further. So your doctor's wife didn't get hurt. She's fine. Come on, don't be a wimp. You're from Switzerland, for goodness sake. Be tough, be puff, be tough. I've got a question for our new people in the live chat. I know most of you already know this, but I was talking about our little friend that I knocked over back there from she represents our Swiss sewing machine. She was out there when that Bernina 125 was live streamed recently, and I showed her also in a number of the photos on Facebook. Has Cow Country, have I from the workshop ever sent a machine to Switzerland? There's an interesting question. She knows that, but she's not talking. Have we ever sent a machine to Switzerland before? And if so, what's the story behind it? Who was it? All right, so now we have some bubble packs as well. I'm not a real big fan of these bubble packs, but you know, it's a good way to fill the space a little bit, isn't it? It's a good way to fill the space. But again, what I would strongly suggest when you're using any kind of packing material is that you anchor it, like I talked about, anchor it to the sewing machine. In other words, if you're going to have a bubble pack like this, put it on the sewing machine, go around it with stretch wrap so it's anchored down. So it's actually sucked in to that machine and affording the maximum amount of protection. If all you do is put it into the box like this, what's going to happen is that machine is going to be able to shift away from it, like you heard when I was jiggling it. It's going to be able to shift away from it, and you're more likely to have damage from that machine being shipped. So yeah, this is fine as a filler, but all of this stuff here is loose. You begin to see the machine right there already. And there's nothing specifically anchored to this machine. Matter of fact, on the bottom, I can see into the box a little bit. On the bottom, it looks like there's only a thin little layer of bubble wrap on the bottom of this inner box protecting this sewing machine. And to my horror and my concern, it looks like the machine is facing down. So when UPS or when Pam packed this inner box, instead of putting the machine on its back, putting it on its back facing up so that those controls and those dials that might be plastic or resin are not going to be bouncing against the bottom of that container, they put the machine facing down. I'm almost afraid to pull this sucker out, but maybe we were fortunate, and maybe what we'll find is that with all of those peanuts, it provided enough of a cushion that we're not going to find that any of those were cracked or damaged seriously. I hope so. I hope so. All right, now I'm giving you a real clear view of that machine, sort of, kind of. I bet you some of you already are guessing what the country of origin is for this machine. But remember, it also has London, England roots as well. London, England. And it's not that's a great guess. I just glanced at the chat real quick. Susie said, what about a Wheeler and Wilson? Nope, not a Wheeler and Wilson. Not a Wheeler and Wilson machine, but that's a great guess. A very, very good guess. I'm going to give you a little bit closer look at what we're kind of seeing here, and then I think you'll be able to zero in on what this machine is straight away. I think I just got a text message. Hold on. It sounded like Emma's notification sound. It sounded like Emma's notification sound. Yep, Emma just sent a text and she said, I think it is. And I think she also typed it into the live chat as well. Then she writes, she goes, I didn't mean to send that. I didn't mean to text that. Yeah. Emma's fingers are doing goofy things. Her fingers are wanting to do one thing and they're doing another. So she's got to go through some sort of finger rehab or finger therapy to get her fingers to do what she wants them to do. Oh, that's great. But what you sent by mistake, Emma, as far as a text, is spot on. And I think there's others getting a closer look at this. Like I said, I will challenge any YouTube channel out there. I will challenge anything on Etsy, Pinterest, blah, 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 to find a smarter group of people than our group. There just ain't nobody out there. Y'all can get a quick little glimpse of something and you're already on it. You're already on it, like, boom, got it, boom, got it. So if you guessed, see if I can balance our friend on there. Stand still there, Harold Burmeisters. If you guessed FOF, PFAFF, now you can look at all those clues I gave. Look at all those clues I gave that the leadership team typed into the live chat. And I think you might be surprised attaching those clues to the FOF sewing machine company and going, holy crap, I had no idea that they started with a workforce of only about 30 people and they eventually grew the way they did. And some of the other details I gave as well. Some of the more basic details that I usually give that right away you latch onto is the founder was making musical instruments as well. And that's kind of what led to his curiosity about producing that first sewing machine that was handmade and was designed specifically to sew leather and specifically leather shoes. And that's the fun thing about the FOF 332 that I prepared for Heidi that went to Switzerland. It went to the country of our representatives right here. I don't want to knock Herr Obermeister over. That machine that I prepared that went to Heidi in Switzerland was also a FOF. And now she is using that sewing machine. Again, FOF Sewing Machine Company, first machine made was to make leather shoes. And now our dear friend Heidi over in the Swiss Alps finished her apprenticeship program to make shoes and is now using that 332 sent from Oconto, Wisconsin to make custom shoes in the Swiss Alps. Leather custom shoes in the Swiss Alps. It's a big circle, isn't it? The FOF Sewing Machine Company started by the founder, G. Michael FOF, making a machine by hand to do sewing of leather shoes. And now our friend Heidi is doing the same thing over there in Switzerland. So, and Switzerland and Germany are not a world apart, are they? They're not a world apart. That's kind of fun, isn't it? Yeah. Yes, you can have, okay. So she's kind of pressing it a little bit. She's pressing a little bit. She said, okay, if I can't do a workman's comp because I fell over, you knocked me over with that big box, can I at least have tomorrow off? The answer is yes. You can have tomorrow off because I'm not presenting any Swiss sewing machines the rest of the week for sure. And so you can take tomorrow off. But I do have a Bernina that eventually I'm going to be showing that came from our friends Kevin and Doreen. They brought it in their car all the way from Iowa. And I'm going to be getting that machine done hopefully in the next couple of weeks. And then we're going to be, you can't have off then. So you better take your vacation, your rehab day now. And then you got to be here when we present Doreen's Bernina sewing machine, hopefully in the next couple of weeks or so. Yeah. Yes. I thought Swiss people were tougher, but I don't know. Now I'm going to get nasty notes from people in Switzerland. So yeah, this is not the ideal way to ship a heavy FOF sewing machine face down with those controls on the other side banging against the bottom of the box. So I'm going to carefully try to lift this out. I'm hoping somehow this machine was spared damage. We've had that before where someone has not packed the machine properly, and by I say the vintage sewing machine fairies have somehow saved it from utter disaster. So we'll see what we find. I'm just going to get a quick drink of soda, and then we'll lift this out and just keep your fingers crossed. But I definitely know that if Pam is not the one that packed this, and the people at the UPS store in the city that I gave you before, I can't think of the name of the city, but the city that this was shipped from, if they're the ones that packed it, I bet you she's going to go back there and give them an earful. Even if the machine is not damaged, that's a very, very dangerous thing as a professional shipper to take something heavy like this that's fragile with those delicate plastic resin controls on the other side and jam them down into the bottom of that box as it's bouncing and banging against metal surfaces and cement surfaces. I can't imagine why someone would do that unless they got confused when they were going to put this box inside of the other box, and they just forgot which way it was facing. That's why, I would, if I were a shipper doing that all day long, as soon as I got that sewing machine or whatever it was that was fragile into that box, like you see me do with the sewing machines, I would write on there right away, this side up or top or something. I write something on there. So if I got busy, if another customer came in and I got distracted, I would remember straight away once that box was sealed, which way this box needed to go inside of that other box so that it wasn't jeopardizing the safety of that sewing machine. It only makes sense if you're doing it for a living, doesn't it? It makes sense that you would take that extra step. I mean, all you need is a Sharpie. All you need is a Sharpie from the Dollar Tree, and you can write on that box, this side up, right? I don't know. Maybe my expectations are too high. I have no idea. All right. I don't see anybody else to say, I need to say hey to. Get a quick drink of Diet Coke. And we're going to lift this machine out and hope for the best. And that feels like, it's kind of funny. I can't see through the bag. Neither can you. But I can tell you that this FOF is set up with an electronic foot controller. I can just tell the way it sounds. Listen to it. That's the foot controller. I got to look just to see if I'm goofy or whether or not I've got a little bit of Sherlock Holmes maybe. Oh yeah, that's electronic. Yeah, it is. So the obvious question is going to be, and I don't think we're going to be able to get an answer to it. I don't think we're going to be able to get an answer unless it's really, really small printed right there. I'm going to give my little magnifier, see if it's small printed right there, because there was a label on the bottom of this. You can see that right there. Somebody took it off. That's like removing the tag from a mattress, for goodness sakes. Why would they do it? You ever seen that where under threat of throwing you in prison and taking your firstborn child and kicking your dog and trying to give your cat a bath, they give you all kinds of threats if you try to take the tag off of a mattress? But somebody took the tag off of this foot controller. So now we don't know what the amperage tolerance of it is, how it's rated. And that's always a dangerous thing. It's always a dangerous thing when you don't know the amperage tolerance. I'm just going to look under this under magnification real quick to see if there's something on there. I don't think there is. No, that was probably just the manufacturer's name, like on a little label there. So this is going to be a little bit tricky. I'll have to be real careful in testing it because remember we had that other foot controller on a similar machine, the one from Denver, Colorado, where that foot controller, that was a Mercury style. It wasn't electronic, but it was a Mercury foot controller. It heated up to over 150 degrees. Over 150 degrees when we were trying to operate that machine that belongs to Maxwell LaFon. So I have no idea what this is rated to. It might be rated to 0.7 amps, like most of the Singer foot controllers. It might be rated to 1.2. We've got no idea, do we? We've got no idea what this foot controller is rated to. No idea. Well, that'll be one for the books. We'll have to see. We'll have to wait and see. And this is I didn't show this to you specifically. This is a junction point. These are power blocks that have been around forever. And one is for the light, which is wired continuously. Actually, I pointed at the wrong one. That's the light. This one is wired hot all the time. So if you plug the cord for a light into it, it's going to come on straight away. This is going to be intermittent. So this is going to be linked into this foot controller that we're not sure what it's rated at. And when you push down this foot controller, it completes the circuit, and then the motor that's plugged into here all of a sudden will come to life and fire up because the circuit's been completed. If you ever get one of these and you don't, let's say you ordered it from someone and you just want to test it without plugging it into your machine, all you have to do, see if we can do it right now. Let me close this just temporarily. Get one little gadget here, and we'll show you what to do. And this is a helpful test to know how to do, because if you get a sewing machine and the motor doesn't fire up, you probably don't know whether it's a wiring issue, whether it's a motor issue, or whether it's a foot controller issue. So to test to see whether or not we're getting power, intermittent power, down to this junction block right here, what we can do is we can take a simple little circuit tester like this. You can pick them up anywhere. They're really easy to find at your hardware store and other places like that. You just go ahead and stick these into here. And then when we plug the power in for this foot controller, as soon as I plug this in and I depress this foot controller, what should happen is this light should light up. This little light here should come on once I plug this into power and once I push this down, because it's telling us then that circuit is complete. And at that point, we know that if our sewing machine isn't starting up for some reason, we've isolated the problem down to the motor then. We've isolated down to the motor. It might be something electrical. It might be motor brushes. It might be something else going on. But we know, at least by doing this little test, that our foot controller circuitry is working fine. And that if we have a good motor plugged into this junction block, that we should be getting a response from that motor. So I'm going to leave these plugged. Actually, I'll take them out and I'll plug this in real quick. All right, so we have power now to that junction block, at least we should. Can use another little device here. This is a voltage detector. The voltage detector is going to tell us if there's electricity. I'm making new words now. If electricity is coming through this cord and working its way through this junction box and to this foot controller. So I'm just going to turn this on. I just did that. So we have power to the cord. Now what we're going to do is we'll check the light first. I'll actually unplug the light above me so you can see this a little bit easier. We'll check the light first, which should be hot continuously. And as I stick it in that junction block, you can see that little orange light come on. Hopefully you can see that little orange light. Now we're going to test the foot controller real quick. So we'll put the same tester into this junction right here. And we should not get an immediate response. And we are. This is not good. So right now I plugged it into what should be an intermittent junction right here. This should be an intermittent junction. And I'm immediately getting an orange light, which is saying that circuit is hot. Now, the problem with that is, with the circuit already being hot, and I haven't even depressed the foot controller yet, there may be a wiring issue with how this foot controller has been set up. This is obviously not the original foot controller for this FOF machine. And if people get the polarity wrong, if they wire a foot controller wrong, it shouldn't be easy to wire a foot controller wrong. But if they somehow screw it up, or if the wiring inside of this junction block is set up in the wrong way, right now we should be getting no light whatsoever. There should be no light on. And we're getting a hot signal. So what could happen if I push that foot controller right now? It could be the equivalent of putting a screwdriver into a live outlet. It's gonna go poof, and the lights are gonna go out in the workshop. So this is why having some basic tools like this can be very valuable. So when you do a test like this before you plug your machine into it, you're not going to have an issue potentially with damaging your motor or getting hurt yourself. Because when you plug it in like this, you're not expecting that motor to kick in straight away. If you were to plug a motor into this right now with it being hot, let's see if we can actually demonstrate that. This right here, again, is supposed to be intermittent, designed for the motor. It's only supposed to come on hot when we depress the foot controller. And right now it's hot continuously. This one should be hot all the time coming from the light. So let me see if I can grab a motor real quick, and we'll see if we can plug it in. See if I have any motors around here that can be plugged in. Well, this is not ideal. This is not ideal. This is actually an extra FOF motor I have. It's rated at 1.3 amps. 1.3 amps. Now, what should happen if I take this motor, and I assume there's motor brushes in here. I didn't check. Hopefully there are. When I plug it into this plug-in point on this junction box right here that's designed for the light, that motor is going to fire up right away. If I plug this motor into the other junction that's designed for the motor, it should only come on if we push the foot controller. And from my tester right now, it's saying that it's going to fire up right away. So the first tester right here, do it like this. On the light one, we should get an immediate response, hopefully. I don't think this motor has any brushes in it. It doesn't have any brushes. Let me get a different motor. Hopefully I can find another motor that I can plug in. All right, here's another motor. This is a modern motor. I think this one is also rated at 1.3 amps. So the long and short of what I'm showing you right now is that this is a dangerous setup right now on this machine that Pam sent. This junction box is not set up properly. That's what we expect to happen. If you plug a motor, if you have a junction block like this and you inadvertently plug the motor into it, that motor should fire up right away, which could be dangerous if your hand is down near the needle. You shouldn't have that happen with this part of the junction block. This is intermittent. It's designed for the motor. And when you plug the contacts in there, you shouldn't be getting a hot signal right away. This one is actually not even making good contact. The polarity must be reversed on it. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of, you can't see it in the shop probably, but I'm getting a little bit of sparking down there. So I'm not going to goof around with this power source anymore. I'm going to go ahead and unplug it. I'll open up the foot controller. I'll open up this junction block as well to see what's going on. But right now I'm concerned about how it's set up and that it could be dangerous. Just checking to make sure I'm not goofy on a Wednesday. Oh, I already unplugged it. Duh. I already unplugged it. Okay, let me set this to the side. All right. So anyway, just to understand, that's how that little block works. The block is popular with a number of different sewing machine models. And you can do that simple little test to see if yours is set up properly. All right, let me get the light back on again. I was just curious about something. Give me just a second here. Give me a second. I just want to be curious to see if I can demonstrate how it should respond. Yeah, this one will work nicely. All right, give me a second here. I'm just going to close this one more time. I'll show you one that's set up correctly. And this is actually one that's designed for a German sewing machine. This would work on a model, some of the model 332s, some of the 230s. And some of you know, when you look at a plugin like this, if you were looking at a Singer plugin, the hot zone where you're going to have electricity continuously for the light is going to be on the outer two regions. Think of it like zone 1. I think it's actually zone 1, 2, and 3. So on a Singer plugin, you're going to have a hot zone for the light on zones 1 and 3. On a German plugin like this, it's going to be different. You're going to have hot zones that are going to have moved, and they're going to be in zones. You look at that light coming on right there. It's going to be zones 1 and 2. So when you're wiring one of these, you have to be real careful. You don't wire it with a mindset of Singer and make the hot zones on 1 and 3. You got to wire it as 1 and 2. And then when you're wanting to test a foot controller, if it's wired correctly, which this one is, you move it on a German one like this to zones 1 and 3. You can see that in the shot right there, I think, 1 and 3. And then you see right now there's no light on, showing that there's electricity flowing. It's off. But as soon as I push that foot controller, it completes the circuit. And then you know you have a properly wired and a properly working foot controller and a plug-in point. So if you've tested this, like I just showed you right there, and you're still not getting a response from the motor, you can set this to the side knowing that this is good to go. And then you can focus on that motor brushes, commutator, stack lamentations, whatever it is, to make sure that there's no damage to that motor that's preventing it from firing up. But that was the response I was trying to get from that foot controller that Pam sent, and it wasn't responding correctly, which tells me there's an issue with it. There's an issue with it. This one's good to go. All right. Okay, back to the machine. Back to the machine that was bouncing face down all the way from Pennsylvania. And I can show you real quick if I get really, really close with the camera. Really, really close. We're kind of going into the harp space right there. Right there in the harp space is our central control center right here with that control knob that adjusts stitch width. That plastic is actually against the bottom of the box right there. Right here. You can see that. And even with a layer of bubble wrap, you're talking about something that's plastic resin bouncing up and down with the full weight of this machine. I bet you this machine is probably close to 40 pounds. So yeah, if it was UPS that did this packing, shame on them. They should know better. Shame on them. All right, let's see what we got here. The knob definitely has cracks on it, but I don't know if those cracks were present before the machine was shipped. I do not know if they were present before the machine was shipped. No idea. Okay. Oh. Real quick, I'm just going to do something to have a little bit of fun. Give me a second here. I'm just putting a piece of painter's tape over the model number so we can have a little bit of fun with that temporarily. I'm also going to get my scale to weigh this so you can imagine this thing being put in the box the way it was with those knobs down, bouncing against that all the way. Not a good idea. Not a good idea. The good news is I do not see any pieces of plastic in here. Thank God. I don't see any pieces of plastic here. It's only a single layer of bubble wrap. It wasn't even anchored to the machine. Was not anchored to the machine. And with the machine facing down against this, I'm just kind of shocked. It had to have been like an honest mistake where someone ended up packing the machine, doing what they did. They closed the box up. Somehow the box got turned over maybe. And they ended up putting it into the other box upside down with the machine facing down when it should have been facing up. That's the only explanation I have. I can't imagine it would have happened any other way. But if you look in the bottom of the box, to give you an idea that they're, machines get beat up pretty good when they're in transport. If you look real carefully, you can see right here, you can see a couple of places. See right there was damage to that cardboard box from it hitting the bottom. Whether it was on cement or whether it was on concrete, whatever, but the corrugation of the box is actually damaged. Over here also, part of the machine, because it wasn't padded and protected correctly, up near the spool pins probably, were actually cutting through the side of the box. That looks like the spool pins, doesn't it? They would have been near the top of the machine or something else sharp on the machine. And that machine should never, ever, ever have had contact with the side of the box. It should have been cocooned in and immobilized so it couldn't come close to the edges of the box where, impact and the concussion of the box being tossed around and dropped could result in damage like this to the corrugation directly from the machine. That's the only way it could have happened. So, I don't mean to be a worrywart, but I've heard too many stories about machines getting damaged in transport. And I've gotten a couple here at the workshop as well. So we can consider ourselves very, very, very fortunate. But we don't know if there was internal damage. Because again, when the machine is getting impacted and it's causing damage like that to the inside of the box as the machine is shifting around, banging into the edges of the corrugation of the box, there could be damage on the inside once I get into this machine. So that's the thing that I'll have to really watch for, is that concussion factor of the impacts hitting that machine indirectly, as it's, it's basically pivoting around inside of that inner box, because it's not padded in, it's not immobilized. And that's more dangerous than something getting snapped off, because you can see that right away. If something is snapped off, you can't see the damage inside of the machine until you start to test the machine, until you start to dig into the machine. So yeah, let's keep our fingers crossed. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Now, this motor is a mystery to me. I'm gonna be a student. I'm gonna be a student for a moment and ask all of you to help me, because in all of the machines that I've handled, with the exception of light industrial and commercial machines that I've had a chance to work on, where they have those large servo motors. You know what I'm talking about? The big servo motors, like you'll see be used in an industrial or a commercial setting. They can be rated up to 12 amps, up to 12 amp motors, maybe even bigger than that now. But with the exception to that, I've never seen a household sewing machine type motor bigger than, say, around 1.5 amps, like the Swedish sewing machine motors. This one supposedly is rated at 2.5 amps. Let me give you a close look of it. Tell me what your thoughts are on that. Tell me what your thoughts are. Well, you can see that in the shot. And the customer did say to me, that that foot controller, that we're not sure what the amperage rating is because someone tore the labels off. She said that that foot controller is getting super hot. I mean, hot, super hot. And electronic foot controllers are not supposed to overheat like that. So, however, that foot controller, that we're not sure what the amperage rating is on it because the labels were removed. However, that foot controller, as the gateway to the electricity, is reacting to this motor. And if you can see that in the shot, what is it rated at? What is this motor rated at? Give some of the specs off of it. We've got RPMs, we've got watts, we've got amperage. You can see that all in the shot right there, I think. So whatever's happening with that, yeah, again, the way I tested it, it seems like the way that setup is with the junction block, the foot controller, power cord, etc., something's wrong with it. It's not set up correctly with the polarity. So, however, it's interacting with this motor. I mean, it's getting fiery hot, she said. Pam said that foot controller is getting so hot I can't even touch it. What did I tell her to do? Don't use it anymore. Don't use it. Don't plug it in. Don't plug it in if it's getting so hot. You can get burned off of it. Electronic foot controllers are not supposed to get like that. They're not. But I can seriously say that I've never seen a motor that's designed for household applications set up like this before. It almost looks like it was made, like somebody did the wire wrapping, commutators, stators, stack lamentations. They built a motor and then they branded it with a certain amperage rating. But whatever it is, it's overpowering that foot controller to a point where it's a fire hazard. I mean, Pam, it didn't get warm. Pam said it got downright hot. I mean, hot to the touch. And that's plastic housing for that foot controller. That's plastic housing. Whoops. Nobody's shooting. That was me stepping on bubble wrap. So imagine what's going on. I'll just set it into the shot right here. If this foot controller right here, the one that she's trying to use with this machine, if that foot controller right there is getting so hot that she can almost burn her hand on it, we got some major setup issues, don't we? We got some major issues. and it could be very dangerous. So I'm going to have to be real careful with this project. But yeah, this looks like a motor that someone, I don't know if they built it in their garage, but nothing wrong with building things in garages, right? But I can honestly say I've never seen a motor quite like this. Never seen a motor rated like this before, ever, never, ever, ever. So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, like this set up for a household rated at 2.5 amps. Honestly, I never have. Never, ever, ever, ever have I seen one like that. See where the rest of the wiring is. Yeah, I'm just imagining how much heat had to be built up inside of this plastic case foot controller that Pam said when you touched it, it was literally hot. Not to be weird, but I'm sniffing it and it smells like it got hot too. It smells, something, plastic gets real hot. It has like an odor to it after the fact. This smells like it got super hot too. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting what we discover. And it goes back to what I say all the time. I'm still a student, even with the experience that I've gained, the thousands of machines that I've touched. Never seen something like that before, ever. Never, ever, ever, ever. So, yeah, crazy, huh? All right, let's spin the machine around and take a closer look at it. Take a look at this machine. I'll get this foot controller out of the way. Yeah, and I'll be interested if anyone has seen one of these motors before, if they're actually selling them, if they're actually manufacturing them somewhere. Yeah, I'd be curious. Be very, very curious. Does anyone think I should I do a bypass on this and just fire the motor up for curiosity? The other thing I'll notice on here is, you see we got a stretch belt on there. Let me just say, and nothing against the people that make their living selling stretch belts. Someone somehow stumbles across this channel and they go back to their boss and they'll say some dude in Oconto is saying stretch belts are bad. They're only bad because you've got no way to calibrate the fine tension on them in relation to the motor output pulley. You can adjust them up and down to try to reduce the pull on these and the pressure on the pulley, but there's an elasticity instead of a rigidity like most belts. Most belts are going to be rigid. They're going to be rigid, and by adjusting the bolt on the pillar, you can adjust that motor up or down, and you can have a constant, predictable tension going around the balance wheel down to the motor pulley. On a stretch belt, the elasticity of the belt makes that very, very difficult. So what typically happens is when someone's adjusting the bracket to try to get the motor at the proper tension so that it's not slipping on the track of the balance wheel, they end up putting too much tension. They feel that belt and they go, oh, it's not tight enough. It's not tight enough. And then what happens is they make it tighter than it needs to be. It stresses the pulley significantly, puts a lot of drag on the pulley, and the result is it ends up causing that motor to get super hot as it's trying to turn that pulley because of all the tension on that stretch belt. These are really, really almost making music there. It's kind of fun. Somebody join in with the drums. Yeah. But these are really, really, they're so convenient, especially if you don't want to go searching for the correct length belt. You can get one of these. You can stretch it to the length that you want, get it around the motor pulley, and you feel like you've got the solution. You're good to go. But it really can create a lot of issues. So whenever possible, try to find a rigid belt that's not stretch style to go with your sewing machine. You're going to get a lot happier motor. You're going to get a lot more even drive and distribution of power from the machine, and you're not going to cause that motor to potentially overheat or create other issues. But I am curious to fire this up. All I have to do is do a bypass on this plug-in point right here, and we should be able to get it to fire up. I think Pam said it fires up just fine. So I'm just curious. Raise the presser foot. Check the balance wheel. Clutch is disengaged right now. Let me engage that clutch. Actually, let's disengage it. Oh, okay. The clutch retainer underneath this stop action, there's a clutch retainer that when you turn this down clockwise, it pinches that retainer down into the grooves that are built into the main shaft that kind of comes through the center of this balance wheel. And when those little wings are compressed down by turning this stop action, it then engages that main shaft and allows that main shaft to turn. When you turn it counterclockwise, it allows those little wings to pop back up naturally again, basically compressing the metal and then allowing that metal to return back to its normal shape again. When you go this way, then only that balance wheel should be turning. Right now, this is turning, and it's turning, and it's turning, and it's turning, and it's not locking in place. So one of two things, we haven't taken it off to look, one of two things. Either that clutch retainer is facing the wrong way so that the wings are pointed out instead of in, or there's no clutch retainer on there whatsoever. I've had that happen too sometimes. But for our purposes of trying to test this monster motor right now that Alex rightfully said, yeah, it's 2.5 amps according to the label. Emma said it's probably correctly rated. So maybe it is a 2.5 amp motor. If it is a 2.5 amp motor, how much bigger than the largest Husqvarna green machine motor is that? You already know that those machines are rated to 1.5 amps, right? So 2.5 minus 1.5, I'm not a math wizard, but I think that's an amp above what a Swedish Beauty would be rated at. And those are monster Swedish motors. Monster and built so well. So I don't know, maybe we'll see the lights dim if I do a bypass on this. I have no idea what we're going to see, but I want to try it just to say we did. You know what I mean? I want to try it. I'm just going to shut my little heater off so I don't overload the circuit. Then I'm going to get my little alligator clips. Get my little alligator clips. There's somewhere over here. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a bypass. It's a simple little setup I did. You just pick up these little alligator clips. You probably can get them at a local hardware store. And then just get a basic cord. This was probably for an appliance or a lamp. And based on the wiring here, you're looking at probably about 18 gauge wiring. So this is rated up to close to 10 amps. It'll support between 6 to 10 amps. So we're looking at 2.5 amps. We shouldn't have any issue as far as the wiring being able to support this motor. Then you just clip one on the other. Clip one there. Clip one there, opposite. So that they're not touching, obviously. Kind of looks like that. And then we're very carefully going to plug this into a power source. And I will grab the fire extinguisher just in case. Just in case. Let me grab that real quick. Uh-oh. It's knocked over that box. Oh, more bubble wrap. I'm definitely not going to reuse this stuff. There is it. There it is. There it is. Pop, pop. There's a fun movie if you've never seen it. Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium. Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium is with Dustin Hoffman, I believe. And one of the things he wants to do before he dies, it's on his bucket list, is he wants to dance on bubble wrap. And if anyone has seen the movie Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium with Dustin Hoffman, I think you would agree it's just a brilliant movie. It's so well done. And you'll remember that scene where he's in a park with his dear friend that ends up taking over the magic toy store, and kind of like our magic workshop here, takes over the magic toy store and Dustin dances on this bubble wrap stuff out in public. No one even pays attention. I think he must be in New York, and it looks like a normal activity that pretty much anyone would try. So they're not horribly impressed by what he's doing, but I was. I thought it was really cool. Okay, so now I'm going to grab my power supply, bring it all the way up here. I'll put it like this. And I've got my connectors over here so that they're not touching. I'm actually going to put my little weight over here to try to keep this from moving. Not the most scientific setup ever, but it does work, I think. It should work. So I've got this right here. The only other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of a buffer, even though both of these are not touching the carpet. I'm going to put a little bit of a buffer between this and the carpet surface. Let me grab something to put underneath there. There we go. All right. As I always say, let's see what happens. This could be exciting. All right, hold on. It actually is dimming the lights a little bit. This is freaky. All right, hang on. Oh, that smells awful. Boy, that motor, it's got issues. It's got a real strong odor to it. All I did was just turn it a couple of times. Holy mackerel. All right, let's get really close. See if we can get that balance wheel turning a little bit. Wow. I wish you could be in the works. Alex, and Emma, and Susie, and Robin, and everyone else. I wish you could be right here, right now. We only spun it a couple of times real quick, and the odor from this motor, it smells like it's burning up. It's horrible. Oh my goodness. I'm going to stop there. The other thing I'll point out to you is right now, because of the bracketing and because of the way, show you something that's really important. I've got this unplugged, so we're safe now. When you're setting up any motor with a belt, you've got to carefully look at the alignment from the motor pulley channel where the belt is in. That's our motor pulley channel right there that the belt is riding in. And you've got to follow it up to the balance wheel, and it should be a straight line. It should be a straight line. Right now, I don't know if you can see it like I'm seeing it, but right now we've got a little bit of a flux in the alignment of this because this motor pulley has been moved out. This motor pulley output right here has been moved out because otherwise it would be rubbing even worse on this screw and this nut right here that's part of the housing for this. It's actually making incidental contact right now between that rubber belt and this piece right here. It's rubbing on it, which is going to damage this stretch belt. But the big deal is, and I don't know if you can see it in the shot, the alignment of the pulley to the balance wheel right now, it's not a straight line. The belt is actually kind of going on an angle like this, just slightly. I'm not sure if you can see that in the shot or not. What that causes is it creates a lot of drag on the balance wheel as that power is being dispersed from the motor and trying to drive that main shaft down. It's basically creating a crimp in that belt being able to flow over the balance wheel evenly and straight. And I know why they did it. They moved this pulley out because otherwise there's our set screw right there. It's an Allen type set screw. They moved this pulley out because if it was moved into the correct position, so the alignment was correct, like this, between the balance wheel channel and the motor output pulley channel, this belt would be grinding. It would be grinding against the clamp assembly right there. That's it. That's adjusted. So they're like, oh, we can't have it rubbing on there. Let's just move the pulley out. But then you create an issue. You can really see it now. Holy mackerel. I'll show you from different angles, see if you can see how misaligned. It's like when you get a tire alignment on your car because the tires on the front are not tracking with the back. And so you're almost like going sideways down the road as one tire is tracking this way, another tire is tracking the other way. It's kind of what we have going right here. We've got a motor pulley where the belt is starting in alignment, but based on the motor pulley alignment here, that belt should be going straight up, which means the track for the balance wheel would be all the way over here. See what I'm looking at? The track for the balance wheel would be all the way over here if you come straight down to where that motor pulley belt is coming off of. So basically the belt is having to make a hard turn to the right to marry up with the channel track on this balance wheel, and it's creating a huge amount of drag on this motor. And you're losing so much power. You're losing a ton of power between the output pulley here and the track on the balance wheel to drive that main shaft. Of course, you're not getting much main shaft drive right now anyway, because that stop action is not engaging the main shaft properly anyway. It's not locking in place. It's just turning and turning and turning like I showed you. But you have to really look at that carefully. The alignment is so critical when you've got a rear-mounted motor and you're having to run a belt up over that balance wheel. It should be straight up from that pulley to the balance wheel. Straight up. And right now we're way off to the side. So that'll have to be addressed as well if we're going to keep this motor. I've got to do more testing on this motor and see what we see. Kind of surprised to see screws in the side of the casing here as well. This would be right adjacent to the commutator. Commutator's right there. And these screws are really, really close to that commutator assembly. So whoever built this motor, I don't know if I would give it the highest of marks. There's a number of things going on with it. And like I said, even with basic operation, it's generating an odor that sounds like it's about to burst into flames. So yeah, I don't know. Never seen one of these before. Never seen one. But it's always fun to experience new things as long as it doesn't involve fire, right? Let's experience new things without fire. Oh my gosh. I'm looking for fire. I can smell it. The other thing I don't like about this motor is when I disconnect the power, watch carefully when I pull this out, it continues to run. Now, if you're operating this with a foot controller and you release the foot controller, you're expecting that machine to stop. I mean, that's the whole idea of a foot controller. But when I plug it in, watch this. See how many rotations you get after the power is taken away, and try to count them. If you got really sharp eyes, really sharp eyes, watch how many times this turns once the power is taken away. And there's no reason to believe it would do anything different if we were using a foot controller with it instead, because you're still taking the power away by disrupting that circuit. And right now I've been able to get this into a sweet spot, even though it's not correct, where we are getting main shaft drive right now. So the machine is under a load right now as far as the mechanics driving it. If you can see down to the needle, you'll see that, yeah, you can see it. This is our presser foot needle area over here. I think you can kind of see it maybe. Right now we are driving that main shaft. But watch how many times it turns once I pull that power away. That's not good. That's not good. Watch. Power away. Even if I do it real quick, it's still turning about, what is it, 3 to 4 times? 5 times? I would not want to sew with this machine with this motor. I wouldn't want to do it because I would be getting to the end of my, you guys already know I don't sew straight. I do not sew straight. I need to travel somewhere and have somebody sit down and say, Scott, without using a seam guide, this is how you sew straight, buddy. I'm going to hook you up, man, because I'll love you. I'm going to hook you up. But even if you can't sew straight, at least when you take your foot off of the foot controller, you're expecting a cessation of the machine operating. It's not supposed to continue to run. This one continues to run for a number of revolutions after you take the power source away. Got to be like 4 times, right? 5 times maybe? So yeah, I see a lot of problems with this motor. And I'll give that honest feedback to Pam, or she'll hear that honest feedback when she watches this live stream as a video. I don't think she could join us today. If she is in the live chat, hello, Pam. Your motor's scaring the heck out of me, kiddo. Yeah, it is. Actually, your foot controller and setup with the junction block is scaring me too, but whatever. We'll overcome it. Now it just stopped completely. No idea what's going on. We got nothing now. I don't know. Maybe I blew out my power strip, possibly. But now we're getting nothing. Now we're getting no response from the motor at all. The motor is not responding. Now, what I can do real quick is let me get my voltage detector and check over here to see if we're getting voltage to our connectors over here. Otherwise, my power strip went out. So something failed on the motor. Something failed on the motor. It might have a capacitor in there. And the capacitor might be why it's running over once the power source is removed. That capacitor is holding energy in it, and it's releasing that energy even after the power source is removed. But we've got power all the way to the cord right now. And the motor is no longer responding. It's plugged in right now. So I'm going to unplug the motor and cease our experiment. So I don't know what's going on right now at this point. Might end up just putting an original FOF motor on here and sending this one back to Pam out in Pennsylvania. But whatever it is, it could be a motor brush issue. I'm just going to turn the balance wheel a couple of times. Because if you didn't know it, when the output pulley turns, the commutator on the inside that completes that electrical field is spinning, and the motor brushes are floating on top of that commutator to complete the circuit and to send that charge all the way through the motor assembly, stack lamentations, stators, etc. And right now, I'm going to just turn this a couple times. Maybe the brushes were stuck or something. I don't know. We'll see. Turn it a couple different ways. See if it comes back to life now. There she goes. She's alive again. She's alive. So what we probably have, if you ever have that happen on one of your vintage machines where it's running fine, and then all of a sudden it doesn't run. You can't get the motor to kick in. It could be as simple as the calibration on the motor brush springs. Over time, they get warm because the motor generates heat, and those springs will actually compress. They'll lose their springiness. And what you have to do then is you have to remove them. You have to extend that spring a little bit further, put them back in so there's more pressure down with that carbon brush against the commutator. Sometimes you're only getting like a floating effect where the motor brush is not making constant and true compression contact against that commutator. And then you'll get a start and stop where the machine will start, it'll run for a little bit, and then it'll stop. The other side of that is you don't want to stretch those springs too far because then you'll run into the same problem we have right now with this motor output pulley and the balance wheel, where you'll have so much pressure of those carbon brushes against the commutator, it'll actually bind the motor up and create drag and slow the motor down. So you got to get that sweet spot where it has good, constant, predictable contact, but not so much contact that it's actually, you know what I mean? It's kind of binding up the motor and slowing the motor down. So I think we have a motor brush issue along with other issues with this motor as well. Because now after I rotated the balance wheel a couple of times to reseat those carbon brushes, now we should be getting contact again. But we still have that overrun, don't we? We take the power away, it runs for about 3 to 5 revolutions, which if you're trying to do controlled sewing, it's going to create a lot of problems, isn't it? Yeah. My guess, capacitor or a capacitor system is built into this motor. It's retaining that electricity and it's got to disperse that electricity even when the power source is taken away, which means that motor continues to run when you want it to stop because you're at the end of your stitch line. So, yeah, problematic design. Smells awful. I wish you could smell it right now. Herr Obermeister is over there off camera pinching his nose saying, "Oh my God, what are you trying to do? Burn us down, Scott?" No, I'm not. Just having a little bit of fun showing our friends and explaining some of the features of the motor and kind of what they're seeing right now. That's all. We're not going to burn the workshop down, Herr Obermeister. All is well. All is klar. Kein Problem. No problem. Okay? No problem. Okay, so let's disconnect all of our stuff and take a look at the front of this machine. Again, I don't know if the cracks on the stitch width controller were prior or whether or not as a result of it banging face down in the box, those cracks have occurred. There's stress cracks. You'll see them close up. And we'll have to check with Pam if she knows as to whether or not they were pre-existing or whether or not they occurred in transport. Okay, move my fire extinguisher. Power source. Okay, so let's turn this towards the camera. And this has clearly been, let's see, turn it like that. Yeah, some major stress cracks right there. Stress crack right there. A text message. No light in there right now. This one jammed up too. It's not letting that light rotate down right now. Okay, give me a second here. Okay, this looks like a text message from Susie from Minnesota. Oh, brilliant. Brilliant. Susie from Minnesota just sent a text, and it says they're selling that motor we were looking at, the 2.5 amp motor. They're selling it on eBay. and they're saying that it's designed for a FOF sewing machine. I can't see what they're selling it for. Let me click on this picture, see if I can see. The ad. Thank you so much, Susie. This is what the ad looks like on eBay for this motor. $250. That's just terrifying. The average, if you don't know this, and some of you may have already noticed it when I do the close-up of that motor, and you'll see it in the description on this eBay listing as well. The average watt output for a sewing machine, a household sewing machine, including the FOF motors, like the 1.1 amp motors in that, is going to be right around 100 watts. And so if you get a converter, remember that converter that I used on that machine from London, England? I used that converter for that machine from London, England that belonged to Adam. This converter over here. So this converter that I just showed you a picture of is actually rated at 200 watts. 200 watts. And 200 watts is going to be twice the amount of wattage that the average household sewing machine uses, regardless of motor size. If you're looking at like a Husqvarna 1.5 amp motor, it's going to demand right around 100, maybe it'll peak at 125 or so watts. This motor is demanding about 2 times, more than 2 times. It's demanding 2 times the wattage of what the average sewing machine motor is going to require. So why am I saying that? I think it's incredibly problematic when you've got a motor that is that demanding on wattage, and it's requiring almost 2.5 times the wattage that the average sewing machine motor will require. That's why I picked out that converter for demonstrating that Swedish beauty that belonged to Adam from London, England. Is I wanted to make sure that it would be able to convert that 110 of ours to the proper voltage to drive that machine at 250 volts. And so I got it with twice the amount of wattage tolerance that it required. An average sewing machine only uses about 100 watts, and my converter will support up to 200 watts. My converter, if you were looking at in relation, would not be able to support that motor if it's requiring that amount of wattage. That amount of wattage is just too much. Yeah, 250 watts. 250 watts would blow out the fuse on my converter over there. So this, I don't know. I'm not a fan of this motor at all. For even before he shared this listing with me, I'll try to show it to you on the shot here. So sewing machine, 250 watts, FOF 130, 30. I don't know what that means. Complete with foot controller. If they're mirroring up, here's the thing. Let me show you what Susie sent me. If they're mirroring up the same type of foot controller that Pam out in Pennsylvania is saying is getting super hot driving this motor, they're setting themselves up for a lawsuit. They're setting themselves up for a lawsuit. Because number one, if that is the foot controller that Pam got with the motor from these people, it's not adequate, because that motor is demanding 250 watts, 2.5 amps or whatever it says. It's causing that foot controller to overheat dramatically. And I mean, it's so problematic. I would not want to be this seller. You can look it up on eBay, or maybe Susie can throw a link into the live chat, so you can just click on the link and look this motor up. But yeah, I see this as incredibly dangerous and problematic. I know nothing about the seller. I know nothing about the seller whatsoever, where they're from or who they are or anything like that. But that's the thing, isn't it? People, because they don't want to devote the time, and the energy to optimizing their sewing machines. They don't want to go through like all of you do, based on the pictures you see on Facebook that I post, based on your own intuition, your own intelligence. You go through your machine and you do the best you can to optimize it so that it turns freely. There's no drag, there's no binding points, and whatever motor you're using, it can drive that energy up to that balance wheel, down the main shaft, down the needle bar, and you're going to get the maximum amount of power that you can hope to get. Some people are lazy. They're downright lazy and they don't want to go to the effort of maintaining their sewing machines. And so they come up with a hack solution of getting this overcharged motor to compensate for the inadequacy of their sewing not being maintained and not being optimized properly. That's my take on it. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe I'm totally wrong. But I'll tell you one thing, I would not want to go down this road. And then Susie shared some description from the seller, brand new to the market. Yeah, it is, until you get your first class action lawsuit, buddy, whoever you are. Till you get your first class action lawsuit because somebody burned their house down or got injured because of the overrun of your motor. They're over here working down at the needle, and because that motor doesn't stop when you take the power away, it continues to run for 4 to 6 cycles. 4 to 6 motorcycles, not motorcycles like wow, wow, motorcycles like the motor turning, and someone gets a serious injury to their hand because that needle continues to sew long after they take their foot off of the foot controller, right long after that power source is removed. Am I getting emotional, a little bit angry? Yeah, I am, because I don't like people that come up with a hack instead of rolling their sleeves like rolling their sleeves up like all of you do, and you put the work in to your machines to make your machines as good as they can possibly be from your knowledge and from your effort and from your experience. And then you put a proper motor, kind of like Kathy King and others were talking about. You stay original, because the Germans are really smart people. And if they say the proper motor for a machine like this is 1.1 amps or 1.3 amps, doggone it, you should go with that. And you should stay original. You should stay true to the brand and to the origin of the vintage machine, not hook up some overamped monster like this with the hope that it's going to deliver the results that you want. And you either end up burning your house down or you end up getting a serious injury because that motor doesn't stop running when you take the power away. You saw it yourself. You take the power away, it turns and it turns and it turns and it turns 4 to 6 revolutions until it finally decides, okay, I'm done. I'm done. In the meantime, you get a serious injury. These folks, I'll tell you one thing, they are on. If there are any attorneys, we've got attorneys that follow us as well. I've got attorney customers. If they're ambulance chasing type attorneys, they should contact these people straight away and say, hey, I'd like to represent you if you get a lawsuit, because you will be getting one anytime soon. Yeah, you will. So, brand new to the market. Let's see who this is. Hello?
Hi, this is Susie Herman. We had an appointment at noon.
Oh, Susie. Yeah, hold on a second. We're meeting at noon, aren't we?
Correct.
Okay. And noon is like 1 minute away.
Okay.
Or you know what? It probably isn't. My watch is probably slow. I even said to the folks at the beginning of the live stream, and then I got on a tangent. I got on a tangent about this machine that I just unboxed right now from Pennsylvania, and it's got a weird, funky, new cutting edge type motor that's incredibly dangerous. So we were doing a bunch of testing on it, and the time ran away from me. Would you give me about 10 minutes to wrap up?
Sure.
Can you do that? Can you give me 10 minutes or maybe even less?
Yeah, I can give you 10 minutes.
Okay, I apologize. Otherwise,
No worries.
Otherwise I could bring you down and you could wrap up the live stream with me if you'd like.
No, that's okay. I've got my husband out here with me. So.
Okay. Give me 5 to 10 minutes. I'll wrap up the live stream and I'll stop ranting about this motor in the machine, and I'll meet you upstairs, okay?
Okay, will do. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks so much. I apologize. Bye.
No worries. Bye.
That's my customer waiting outside to meet with me right now to drop off. I think it's actually a serger. I don't like sergers. Don't tell her that. But anyway, we got to wrap this up. Susie, I apologize, dear. I didn't read all of this. I can't read it. Just post the link for this eBay listing, if you would, so that our friends can look at it. Our friends can look at this and they can see exactly what this guy's pitching about this motor. But I see a lawsuit coming anytime soon. Someone's going to get hurt from this motor, and the result's going to be nasty. So, at any rate, this machine, to stop the drama, as I peel back this painter's tape, this machine is, I'll say it in German. If anyone speaks German or can figure it out, the model on this, and I'm just going to double check that I'm right. Yes, I am. Okay. The model number on this is 229. 229 is what model this is that Pam sent from the great state of Pennsylvania. 229. Anyone figure it out? I'll look at the live chat real quick. Really close, really close. Emma, really, really close, Emma, really, really close. What you typed is 230. That would be 230. This is 229. Let me make sure I'm right. Yes. 229. 229. So it's not 230. This is 229. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's the counting for German 1 to 10. If you can figure it out, just type it in the live chat. And then I'm going to get up to meet with my customer. I'll wrap this up. I'll let the leaders kind of wrap things up. I'll let the live stream run a little bit longer so y'all can chat about the potential lawsuits coming for this motor, because they're going to come, no doubt. Jenny did really well. Jenny put 239, which would be 239. 239 would be 239. So you're right. You're heading in the right direction. This is 229. 20. 229. Remember when German, when you're looking at three numbers and you're saying a number that's in the hundreds, the last two numbers you switch when you say them. So if this were a 230 model, instead of saying 230, well, let's say it was a 235. Let's do 235 with three digits. If this were a 235 model, it would be, some people would assume it was said 253. 5 is 5. Instead, you have to switch the last two numbers. So 235 would be 235. So these two numbers on the end are switched. They're switched around. All right. For sake of time and for sake of the customer waiting outside, I'm going to peel it back and show you what number it is. Zweihundertneunundzwanzig. 229. But when you say it, you say 229. So if this were 235, it would be 235. So you always switch these last two numbers in German. You don't say them sequentially like we would potentially in English. 229. You do the equivalent when you speak it in German of saying 292. 229. So now you learned something new, which is what our classroom is all about. And you've also learned that if you don't want to be declared an arsonist, but for whatever reason, you want to burn your house down or injure yourself so you can establish a class action lawsuit, follow the link that Susie provides to the eBay listing, buy a motor and a foot controller assembly from these folks, and get rich quick. Get rich quick. I'm joking, of course, but I'm telling you, major liability. God bless you guys. Thank you so much for joining me for the unboxing of Pam's 229 FOF machine. which is going to give you the capacity to do a variety of straight stitching and zigzagging, but it's not going to have some of the bells and whistles that some of the later models had with that cam stack built in to give you a variety of decorative stitching. But it's a great machine, and it's a safe machine when you're operating it with the correct vintage motor. Yeah. Okay. So I'll put on some music. I'll go out and meet my customer, and then I'll come back eventually and end the live stream. But I'm going to let it run just unsupervised for a little bit with just my leadership team keeping an eye on things and taking care of the family. So thank you to my leadership team as always. Thank you to all of those that were in attendance today. And I hope you learned a number of new things that will help you out moving forward with your vintage machines or future vintage machines, which could include burning your house down if you buy a motor like this. I'm just telling you, folks. All right, God bless. Take care. I'll put on some polka music while I'm out meeting with my customer. Try to put on some polka music. Okay, everybody, take care. I'm going to go ahead and end the live stream now. If you're in the middle of chatting with somebody, the live chat will stay active for a little bit. But the next live stream we will do is kind of uncertain because I'm right in the middle of prep on some machines. So keep watch. It's possible I'll get something ready to present by this Saturday. It's possible that I won't be. So I'll try to keep the leaders involved at least and knowledgeable about that. Anyway, take care, everybody, and thanks for checking out Pam's 229. You don't see these machines very often, so they're really kind of cool, aren't they? All right, take care. See ya. God bless.